So we had a good year of animated chain moves that were just like, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't work. We worked on the axe for so long that there was a possibility the blades were gonna have to get cut. Everybody said, look, if you took 3.5 to 4 years to do the blades, or the axe, you're never gonna be able to do the blades in time. Hey everybody, Cory Barlog here. I'm the director of God of War, and today we're gonna break down one of the most iconic scenes in the game, the acquisition of the Blades of Chaos. So this whole opening sequence, this actually did not exist. This was a product of having to cut a huge level where the sun was becoming a jerk, and we ended up needing to fix and stitch a bunch of other things together. So this moment where he really rages out and for just a brief second is showing this Kratos inside of him. This moment of realization, right, is kind of what I was pitching from the beginning of the game. This idea of how much of ourselves do we see in our kids. And we usually see some of the worst parts of ourselves in our kids. And I think that rage, that ability to call upon this sort of godly rage and set yourself on fire, that's not something he wants his kid to have. That's definitely a not good thing. And this sequence right here, we see Atreus looking very sickly. He's completely passed out. You don't know if he's alive or dead. And I really wanted the effects for all the effects for his rage mode to fade off very slowly. The idea was that actually holding his son was the thing that was starting to calm him down. And when he comes out here, this is really cool. You can start to see the red storm. And I wanted to sort of permeate all the way through Midgard. So it felt like, is Atreus actually causing this? And this is just this intense amount of worry. My feeling was I wanted to go bigger. I think we could get some great emotion out of Kratos, but what was amazing about this was we held back. Kratos would feel better without having too much going on, but this pacing is very good. It's that caged lion feel, because he's faced with a situation that he's never faced before. He can't fight his way out of this. There's really nothing he can do. He has to go to somebody else that he barely knows to try to get help. And that is a huge deal for Kratos. And throughout the entire thing, we wanted to show that the Red Storm was really taking over the world. And I wanted to show a lot of background animations to signify this. And there's one coming up that we pretty much spent all our money on. So right up here is the deer and the lightning and then it running away. And we were gonna do all these animations. And then after they did that one, they said that was really expensive and very difficult. So we might have to start trimming back a bunch. Now coming in here, this was one of the first examples of how we were going to hide any of our warps or cuts. Because the actual physical distance, that first lightning bolt, the physical distance between where Kratos starts and where the house is really far. The boat ride would have taken forever. So we had to figure out a way to kind of hide that. And we did it through some of these lightning bolts that appeared. I really love when we can get close on these shots because the model is absolutely incredible. So that one right there is actually the one where we were doing the warp. So now we see some of the deer coming in and everything moving in this direction, right? But we were supposed to have little battles with Hellwalkers up here. We were gonna have, Hellwalkers maybe killing a deer up here and kind of just really fill this whole space all around here with kind of chaos going around. And he has this moment of calm. And I really like the idea that everything seems to be going to crap all around him, but he's just so focused because what he's about to do is emotionally one of the most difficult things he's gonna do. So right there, we got one, right, that appeared because, budget. You end up like with these grand ideas of so many things happening, and then you end up really just getting one or two of these things. And he has, I think, just a basic idol. But I think in the end, sometimes lack of budget or time constraints, they make you make a decision you wouldn't normally make, but it's for the better. I think that the focus staying on Kratos, really making this somber moment and not making it too chaotic and not introducing, obviously, the Hellwalkers until much later, worked out really well. And see, this is kind of cool. We initially come in and we have kind of Atreus right here in this space, and then we see the body of Faye right here. So at the beginning of the game, you're getting this composition of the door opening up and creaking open and seeing Atreus stand and look in at the body of Faye. And now we're using sort of a negative space to show that while we have Kratos coming in to this much darker scenario. It's like every time you go home, not necessarily the greatest thing. At the beginning of the game, we actually show this point. So there's a point where he's closing the door and we kind of tilt the camera just for a second and then pull back up and show that the blades were there. And a few people caught it. At one point it was glowing. So it was super obvious. You just see this yellow, orangey glow coming out of it. And this scene right here, Chris Judge, I had him do this like 2 or 3 times, and I didn't realize how much it was affecting him. I mean, he really went deep on this one. And we had to actually re-record some of the lines he was saying because he was actually crying so much during it that it was harder to catch some of the bits of dialogue, but it was amazing. And I didn't even realize, he actually came to me after we did the 3rd take, and he's like, man, can I get a break? I'm a little worn out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. Yes, please, we need to take a break now. And we were very worried about how we were gonna get chains wrapping around the arms. So initially we were shooting around that. So we always have this little trick we have to pull that at some point they're sort of already attached right there. And it's just that sleight of hand you have to pull. That is a rigging. Axel Grossman is our technical rigger. We just used a rope on set and kind of wrapped it around, and then they were able to kind of make that work. This moment for me is such an incredibly important moment because in that beginning pitch that I talked to people about, I kept talking about this idea that it's not like we're gonna erase Kratos' past. It's not like all of a sudden you start this game and Kratos is a great guy and he's going and saving people and he's gonna be a good dad. No, he's the same guy, right? It's just that in the previous games, the monster that was inside of him was let out all the time. And I said in this one, he's making the attempts to actually keep the monster inside. He's struggling and he's failing constantly. But this moment of accepting that he's a monster, right, is I think the crux of everything we did in this story. You know, it was very important that at that end point, he was standing up and accepting who he is, and then he would just walk straight through Athena, dissipating her, and you would be wondering the entire time, was she real? Was she in his head? Or was she real and in his head? I think both of those things are entirely possible.
All right, brother, let's see what those blades can do.
This is my favorite moment to watch on the streams. I really like watching the moments that, you know, emotionally will get to people. You had gone through all of this wondering, worrying, maybe that's not what they're gonna do. I could be reading into this too much. Oh my gosh, that's what they're gonna do. This is gonna be great. And the payoff that we actually got it right, you know, and I think that was always in question. You know, we did not do the blades until probably the last year. We worked on the axe for so long that there was a possibility the blades were gonna have to get cut because they were just taking so long to get online that everybody said, look, if you took 3.5 to 4 years to do the blades or the axe, you're never gonna be able to do the blades in time. So we had a good year of animated chain moves that were just like, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't work. And with this new camera angle where you have the camera behind him, it's very different. With blades coming out this way and sweeping out this way, sometimes even across his horizon line, you don't get the same visual as when you sort of have, you know, a side view of Kratos shooting the chain blades out. I'm a really great artist, by the way. People are jealous of my skills. But seeing this from like an isometric view, seeing it from a side view, you get a better view of the line of action for the chain blades. And we really had to figure out how to take the old moves and make them work much better in this camera angle. Because so much of the game was built on this revelation, this realization from Kratos that the blades were gonna be something he'd have to return to. They were something he'd want to get rid of, but he'd have to go back to them. He'd have to put them on, and he'd do that for his son. He wouldn't do that for himself, but that was part of his growth. This was a very important scene to me, and I think to the entire team to nail and get right. This was a pivotal moment within the game, a huge sort of crux for the character of Kratos. You know, we put so much into this that seeing the reactions was really when it hit home what we had done. You know, because you work for so long. You work for 5 years with your head down, hoping that what you do actually connects to people, and to see the variety of reactions, the way that it connects to people is amazing. It's why I love making games, because it is so much about the connection and almost collaboration with the audience. You're not just creating something in a vacuum. It feels like it for a while, but when you finish, when you actually get it out there, I think it changes you as a developer. It's very cool.